It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Folks, I had the pleasure of sitting down with an angel dad. His name is Steve Ronnebeck. We Build the Wall. Sat down with him a few days ago, and it sounded like this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. I want to go now. We have on the phone Mr. Steve Ronnebeck is with us. He is an angel dad, and he is also with the GoFundMe campaign, We Build the Wall. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to have you on. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on at the border, but I also want to first talk about We Build the Wall, and tell us about the We Build the Wall GoFundMe campaign. How much money have you guys raised?
Right now, we're sitting right around $22 million, and the donations are coming in every day.
Okay, that's a lot of money, and I think it speaks to really, how the American people feel about this. This is a huge issue. It's just one of the reasons Donald Trump's in the White House.
Oh, absolutely. We have almost 150,000 so far this year that have come across our southern border illegally. The numbers are growing. We have a new caravan that's formed. This is ridiculous. It's got to stop.
What do you think about Donald Trump's idea, or at least one of the ideas floated, hey, let's just put them all in sanctuary cities? And now we have the Democrats now, really their compassion is exposed as being phony because they really are admitting the fact that would be a disaster for some of their cities.
Oh, and it's true. The homeless problem in California is at epidemic levels now. If we start shipping these illegals off to California or Chicago or other sanctuary cities across the United States, their crime rates are going to go up. Their homeless rates are going to go up. Their social service programs are going to break. They're already stretched to the limit. That'll just break them. There's just not enough money. There's not enough, resources for all these people coming across our border.
We're talking with Steve Ronnebeck. Now, Steve, I mentioned earlier that you're an angel dad, so obviously your activism here is a result of tragic circumstances. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah. January 22nd, 2015, my son Grant was working the overnight shift at Quick Trip in Mesa. An illegal alien came in, wanted to buy cigarettes, and dumped a jar of change out on the counter. Well, Grant went to start counting the change, and evidently wasn't counting the change fast enough. This man said, "What, you're not going to give me my cigarettes?" And Grant tried to explain to him, "Hey, I got to count your change first." So this man pulled a gun. Grant did everything he was supposed to do. He offered up the cigarettes, gave them to him, here you go. And at that point, this man shot my son point blank in the face, killing him.
Oh, my gosh. Did they ever find the man that did that?
Yeah, we were very lucky. There was somebody in the store that witnessed it, and Mesa Police Department was, they went out of their way to catch this man. Police officers tend to frequent Quick Trip and nicer convenience stores. And luckily there was a police officer that pulled in within 5 minutes after Grant was murdered. And the witness said, "Hey, this is who it was, and this is what he's driving." So they were able to catch this man within about a half an hour. He led the police department on a 26-mile high-speed chase before they ended up doing a pit maneuver and putting him into a pole.
And so where is he now?
Well, we're still awaiting trial. He is in Maricopa County Jail awaiting trial.
So, this goes without saying, and you try to convince people who are maybe in the middle of this domestic political issue. It shouldn't be a political issue at all at this point, but it is. but you try to convince them of families like yours, Steve. And this is a preventable crime. This person was here illegally, shouldn't have been in the country to begin with. And, they want to somehow say that border security is immoral when if we would enforce our laws, your son might still be here today.
Oh, and it's absolutely true. I mean, there were several failures in the system. The illegal alien that murdered Grant was also a prior felon. Him and his wife and another man did a home invasion. They held a woman captive naked for 10 days, sexually assaulting her for that 10 days, filling her full of heroin, and they scared her so bad that she became an unreliable witness. So he was able to plead his prior crimes down to felony burglary. He actually never did a day in prison, and he was on day 795 of an ICE bond. And these are stories that are happening every day. This is what's happening in our country. Is it seems that these illegal aliens are favored, and they're able to plead down or lessen their sentences. And if they have children that were born in the United States, or they were part of the Dreamer Act, they're able to skirt the system. Right now, we're averaging 5 to 7 a day murders at the hands of an illegal alien. We're averaging 20 to 30 a day that are dying from heroin and fentanyl, which we all know that 90% of the heroin and fentanyl coming in our country is coming across our southern border.
Yes.
78% of that number is actually coming across right here in Arizona.
We're talking with Steve Ronnebeck. He's an angel dad, and we want to talk about this GoFundMe campaign, We Build the Wall. They've already raised $22 million. The We Build the Wall is now a nonprofit, correct, Steve?
That is correct.
What did you make about the news of a Christian Nielsen resigning as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary? Do you think President Trump is trying to send a message that he just wasn't pleased with the results so far? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's a couple things. I think that this problem is so overwhelming, and it's been going on for so long, that there isn't one perfect answer. I think that, yes, he is trying to send a message saying, it is time that we take the hard line on this issue, and we protect our country and our citizens. He wants results, and he wasn't getting them.
Yeah. What do you think? So this money, this $22 million, I'm assuming it's going to grow. More people are going to continue giving to this. How do you actually go about, as a nonprofit, private endeavor, constructing a border wall?
Well, the first thing we did is we decided that we were going to go on private land. Okay? So we have ranchers all across the southern border that we've contacted, or they've contacted us and said, hey, we want a wall on our land. We want a fence. We want something. Because, again, what a lot of people don't realize is these ranchers are suffering almost worse than what's happening in the interior of our country. Their lands are getting destroyed.
Yeah.
The trash, the danger. I mean, we have ranchers here in Arizona that I know personally that they've given up locking their doors at night or when they leave, and they just leave them open because it costs them less money to replace the stuff that gets stolen than it does to have to rebuild a door frame or rebuild. Yeah, I mean, the insurance claims, it costs them more money to have to rebuild part of their house than it does just to replace stuff. I know one lady that has a ranch on the southern border that she actually had a cartel spotter that knew her routine. He would let himself into her house because he knew where her key was. He'd go in, he'd take a shower, fix himself some breakfast, take a nap, clean up his dishes, clean up whatever mess he made, and leave before she came back in the afternoon.
That's incredible. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And this is in the United States of America, where we're essentially just, I mean, for decades, we're just going to allow this to happen. I mean, the whole point of the rule of law is that you're supposed to have a reasonable expectation that when you leave your home, things are going to be the same way when you get back. But so what we're seeing down there, it's the Wild West, it's just lawlessness down there, Steve.
Oh, it is absolutely lawlessness. Tim Foley from Arizona Border Recon is a friend of mine. I'm also part of Arizona Border Recon. I've seen trail cam video of a group of 30 to 40 cartel members, all dressed in military gear, carrying AK-47s, carrying sidearms, crossing over illegally into our country, carrying those weapons so they can escort drugs or high-value illegal immigrants. And they're escorting them not just maybe feet, but miles into the, into Arizona to help them get across the border. I mean, in any other country in the world, that would be an act of war.
Yes. Well, let's talk about real quick the other part. You mentioned the fentanyl. You mentioned obviously you're an angel dad, so I mean this is very personal. But let's talk about sex trafficking. This is like the main thing. I was reading the other day. It's a $150 billion a year industry, and it gets very little attention in the mainstream media because I just think they realize there's no way they can claim the moral high ground if they actually start talking about what's going on when it comes to women and children and sex trafficking at the border. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. That the sex trafficking is a horrendous industry. And again, a lot of people aren't realizing that a lot of these family units that are being picked up at the border, a lot of these children don't belong to the adults that are supposedly part of this family unit. Mm-hmm. Right now in Mexico, as of January 1, there was over 25,000 reported missing children in Mexico. And God knows how many more in the further outlying countries. These children are being kidnapped. They're being bought with the promise of, we're going to give your child a better life. And they're being used to get across the border. And then all of a sudden, well, hey, we're going to make money off this child or this woman. It's sickening. Fiscal year 2014, North Carolina alone. Fiscal year 2014, they had over 1,483 sexual assaults against children committed by 950 illegal aliens.
Gosh.
Yeah. The other bad part of this is these women that are coming in these groups and these younger females that are coming in these caravans or these groups, it's reported that 1 out of 3 can expect to be sexually assaulted on the trip up. And then once they're brought across the border, they end up going into the sex trade because they need to pay off their debt.
We're talking with Steve Ronnebeck. Steve, I'm going to make sure this is the right page. I've got the GoFundMe. This is Brian Colfage's page, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
WeBuildTheWall.us.
Okay, so you can go right here. Let me pull this down. I'm showing our listeners this. Here's the GoFundMe page. It's really convenient. They've raised just south, or just over, I guess, $21 million, and your goal is $1 billion. Is that right?
That is correct. We want enough money that we can supplement the wall that our president is building.
So I just want to remind everybody about Brian Colfage. That he is I believe he's the most injured airman in American history. Is that right? When it comes to combat?
Yeah, this man is one of our heroes. He's one of our hero veterans. And I'm going to put this bluntly. This man was literally blown up in Iraq. Okay? He lost both his legs, and he lost one of his arms in service of our country. This man came back and wanted to continue serving. And this is how he's doing it. He got tired of seeing what's happening in our country with these illegals. And this is the idea he had, and this is what he's doing.
Wow. It's amazing, and I see it according to the GoFundMe page, raised, this is so far 355,717 people have donated in 3 months, and you've gotten this much money. So I just want to thank you for what you're doing, Steve, and I just, God bless you, and I'm so sorry the circumstances of your son, but I know you're doing what you think is right so that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Oh, and thank you so much. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to be famous. I don't. But my son deserves this, and I'm not going to stop fighting for him and all the other victims. And whether people think so or not, I'm fighting for them so that this doesn't happen to their family. Nobody should ever have to bury a child, a brother, a sister. I mean, nobody should. It's horrendous, and it changes a family forever.
Yeah.
And I would never want anybody else to have to go through this.
We got to secure the border. We got to do something about this illegal immigration problem. Steve Ronnebeck, we appreciate it. Angel Dad GoFundMe campaign. We build the wall. Steve, God bless you and your family.
Thank you, sir, and have a great day.
You too. Folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.